Hey guys, welcome back. Today's a little bit of an impromptu vlog. I actually had something else planned to do today that had to do with like the band. It's not going to be quite as long as I want it to be. The idea is I work selling supplements and stuff like that. It's my day job. A lot of people come in under the assumption that they're going to be able to take a magic pill. You cannot outwork a terrible diet. You still have to put in the work and you still have to watch the kind of foods that you eat. To that end, the first topic that I wanted to talk about today has to do with hypervigilance in dieting, which I have very, very personal experience with. It took a lot of work and it was very stressful. And I mean, like, you can look stuff up online and find all this stuff about counting macros, counting calories, watching all this stuff. But reality is, like, unless you have the time to sit aside and do all that stuff, it becomes very impractical, especially for like normal people. I know that saying normal people, it sounds kind of weird. I mean, my roommate, he's a normal dude, but his life literally revolves around, his training regimens and stuff like that. It was on account of him, realistically, that I made the progress that I did. A lot of the stuff that I learned from him, I had to adapt and work on to make more specific to how I do things. And especially towards the tail end of last year, I used the same methodologies I've been using for the past 4 years or so to really trim down. I got down to 160 pounds. I was basically just bone and muscle, and this was all in preparation for a trip to San Francisco to go to a big martial arts seminar in Mill Valley, and it was a big deal for me, and I put in a lot of work for it. But when I got back, all the things that I did, they weren't very sustainable, which for some people they are sustainable, but because of the kind of life that I want to live, I don't have time to set aside that much effort to break all that stuff down. Over the last several months especially, I grew to more understand what it feels like to eat like food that's just better for you and that holds you over longer. And like, I came to these conclusions because of how I managed my diet before, but now it's just become a lot more intuitive. And that sounds really hard to do, but eventually, like, you have to make it a habit. And once you make it a habit, that's when it really sticks. And those are the things that makes it easy. Like, I used to hate broccoli and stuff. I think a lot of it had to do with how the food was prepared when I was a kid. It was always cooked and stuff like that. And it wasn't until I became vegan that I really started enjoying vegetables. Maybe it's because I got older and my taste buds changed and stuff like that. But I really figured out that I really liked it when it was closer to like its rawest form, which again sounds like real holistic hippie kind of stuff, but the truth of the matter is, like, I just run better that way. And granted, it may not be the case for everybody, but these are just my experiences, and this is what I share with you, and it's what I share with my clients for personal training. My ultimate goal as far as all this goes is just to give people the tools that they need to get where they want to go, from diet to training. I try to teach people to avoid stressing themselves out over the number of calories and macros and stuff like that. As long as you just follow a couple of generalized rules, you can build good habits that will help you in the long run and keep you full, and you won't have to worry about all this stuff. And I mean, there are several other tools that you can use to expedite the process and all this. And there are things that I still use to this day on occasion, especially depending on what I'm trying to do in any particular month or so. I usually tell people, eat your protein first. And it's funny me saying that being a vegan, because people are like, well, where do you get your protein from? Trust me, I get plenty of protein. You don't think about it, but there's the sheer amount of food you eat as a vegan, because the majority of it's not very calorie dense. You get a lot of the macronutrients and stuff just by virtue of how much that you eat, because you can't eat that much because it's not calorie dense, and thusly you basically just get to eat all day, which is a big win for me because I really love food. Outside of that, like the whole carbohydrates versus fat thing. Like, there's been the huge fat scare. Everybody's terrified of fat. Eating fat makes you fat. Not necessarily true, not necessarily untrue. It's like the sheer amount of food that you eat and how dense it is, and compared to how much and how well it keeps you satiated, that's actually what makes you fat. And if you choose a lot of foods that are high in fat and they don't satiate you, then naturally the fat in that food is going to make you fat because there's a lot of calories there. That's how it works. Same thing goes for carbohydrates. That doesn't mean that it's an either or scenario. Your body needs both of them. Your body uses both of them for all of this. And that's one of the big problems I have with some of these other diets. It has this feeling of punishing yourself because you're trying to get to a goal, which really shouldn't be the case, because it's not. You feel like you're punishing yourself, you're not going to stick to it. I mean, some people are hardcore enough to be like, all right, I can stick it out, I can do this, and I applaud them for that. But to me, it's not worth the stress, is the whole thing. And like I said before in the intro, like, all of this is about inspiring people to figure out a way to be less stressed in their life, and that includes like in their training and stuff. The one of the big things that we always had when I first started doing Jeet Kune Do, we had like a painting that set up. It says like, just enjoy it, and that grew to like encompass everything else that I did slowly over time. Granted, but you got to figure out a way where you're going to enjoy doing the things that you do, because if you don't, you're not going to stick to them. You can't look for validation from people on the outside. It's like, oh, well, I did this, these people are proud of me because I did this. Like, be proud of yourself and like enjoy what you're doing for yourself, not for anybody else. And that's why I have my opinion as far as like the people who train for aesthetics, which if that's what you're doing, like if you're a physique competitor or something like that, then more power to you. That's the entire goal of what you're doing. But like a normal, everyday, day-to-day person who has a life, who has a day job and all this, like, you can't sit there and stress yourself out over all this, because these connections are going to fall apart. Something's got to give eventually. So just find a middle ground, like a middle path, and go from there. With regards to all that, in addition to the whole diet portion of this whole thing, a lot of people, again, going back to the percentage split, 80% diet and 20% training, you can utilize training methods in order to reinforce. I mean, that's really what it is. Like, you're using, like, your diet's your core of everything, and then you use training methods and supplementation to push past whatever plateaus you get to. And by and large, I try to avoid telling people to get on any sort of supplementation until they hit their plateau, and then you use that supplementation to get past. With that in mind, especially for my clients who are trying to lose weight, and I like to instead refer to it as recomposition. It sounds really weird to try to like rebrand it that way, but again, like, to me, keeping everything up here, like in a positive note, and making it so you can enjoy it instead of thinking about something as a loss, because you think of weight loss, you think of dieting and like cutting things off that you enjoy. A lot of people could do without a lot of the things that they partake in, honestly, at least to the degree that they do. But primarily for my like weight loss and recomposition clients that I have, the big thing that I try to get them to take away in order to maximize the effect of their recomposition, you want to use exercises that are going to engage as much muscle tissue as possible, because one, you're going to be pulling from a greater store of energy. Your body's going to need to pull from like excess stores of fuel, for one, and also two, doing things like that, doing compound exercises and things that stress your whole body, breaks down more muscle tissue, which means your body has to use more fuel and more nutrients to repair all that. And especially for men, but it also applies to women, these sorts of exercises increase like your body's natural production of testosterone, which is what's going to help you trim down excess weight. And also keeping in mind though, like, it's the same exercises aren't going to work to the same degree for both genders, because just on a genetic level we work differently. I can't tell you how many times I've talked to female clients and I tell them what kind of exercises I'm going to put them on, and they get scared because I'm telling them that they're going to be lifting weights. They don't want to get huge. You have to work, even men have to work really, really, really hard to get big, to get that much like hypertrophy. If you stick to a reasonable plan of like weightlifting, you're going to just build solid lean muscle tissue, which in the long run is going to help you burn more fat, maintain a lower weight, and so on and so forth. In summation, don't be hyper-vigilant in your dieting. Choose foods closer to their natural state. I know it's a lot easier just to go up and buy like a frozen meal or something and just throw it in the microwave and cook it, which, I mean, that can do in a pinch. You can still do all that stuff. Just by and large, the majority of your food, you need to just take the time to prepare. That's why you choose foods that are one, closer to their natural form, because they don't really require that much preparation, which means less time spent in the kitchen, which means you don't have to stress yourself out about like cooking and meal prepping and all this and counting all these calories and macros and whatnot. So that takes that out of the equation. The other half of it is, don't be afraid to lift weight, especially starting out. Lift a lot of heavy weight. because that will speed up your recomposition progress and weight loss, or however you want to call it. And then once you get to where you want, and you have like a certain level of strength, then you can start doing other things that don't involve that weight. Then you can branch out and you can be doing things that, you know, just don't require any equipment, which, I mean, you can get solid results off of starting from the ground up with no equipment. But just for people who want results a lot quicker, my advice would be to start out with a good weightlifting program. As always, like and subscribe, hit that little bell button on the side so you get a notification anytime I post up any new content. New releases are on Wednesdays and Saturdays, 12 Central Standard Time. And you can give me a hand donating to my Patreon, links down in the description. Anything that you guys give me, I'm going to use to get better equipment, have higher quality content coming out, and of course, any help that you guys give will also go towards getting my band, all the things set up so we can practice and get new equipment and start, you know, actually making music and get our shows out on time. So appreciate you in advance. Take it easy, guys.